Privileged moment that Newsroom Africa is now being afforded with the 9th monarch of the Amazulu nation, an historic moment that has taken place today with the first black president actually handing over that certificate of recognition to King Misizulu Zwelithini. And Bayede siyathokoza ukuthi ukhulume nathi namhlanje. We know that it's been a journey and a half for you. In fact, since the last time we've spoken, many things have taken place, but critically is the moment, which loosely translated as entering the crawl. And I was there, Kwakangela Mankengane Royal Palace. When you emerged, dare I say, you looked quite emotional. What was going through your head at that point in time?
Thank you, Nqobile. Good question, actually. It was a day of our African worship, the royal family, the Zulus, and a day of reflection also, reflecting back from where we come from, especially mentioning of the late king. My father, that really is it really happening that we really need to stop looking back now and start looking at the future. And mostly that's when the emotions really came from, which I looked at as a new beginning for myself, for the royal family, for the nation as a whole, and I would say South Africa included, which gave us basically a step moving forward as a people in Southern Africa, basically turning over a new page, looking into a brighter future. And it was so emotional. And basically that's where those emotions came from, to say that, is it really, really happening? And basically that's where the emotions came from.
I mean, you know, it's quite, not even just intriguing, but quite something that you are really taking us into your confidence about, that the emotions behind that moment. But also, is it really happening, is also something that many also would have reflected upon today, that standing on that stage next to President Cyril Ramaphosa, receiving that certificate of recognition in front of the entire globe, essentially. When we look at the speech that you made today, yours was really speaking about peace and speaking about the hope and the future of the throne. Where to from here, Bayed?
Good question also, once again. It was quite an emotional moment, a historic moment, which, you know, when you look back and you think that after all that's happened, you know, the confusion in the family, the misunderstanding between each other, you almost like looked at it as though this is kind of like almost like the end, and not really looking at all the negative energy that came from the past year, and so on. But really just recapping and looking and thinking, because really I do respect the president very much, and the ruling party, and not to I would also like to mention my Prime Minister, at his age, the wars that he's fought for me, with me, alongside me. You know, the president actually took all the right directives insofar as making sure, and he actually put together a committee that would that involved our former KZN Premier, Ubaba Macingwane, to really look and study, and through good hope and confidence, they not only read in between the lines, they did get to the bottom of the truth. Yes. To say, actually, here is the true story as to what's happening. So it gave the people confidence. I always say this, it doesn't matter how much right you do, there's always going to be that few people that will always put up their hands and say, I oppose. And it's part of life. Mm-hmm. You cannot please everybody 100%. So it's accepted that wherever you go, whatever you do, they're always, simply just explaining what I'm trying to say is, in a simple company situation, you want to become CEO or you want to become CFO, and somebody else gets it, and those few guys that were looking to get that position also, they're always going to be opposition. So it was almost like a gamble, which it's not. And just to get to the bottom of it, to clear the air, my opposition was more of, I want to be king, or I wish so and so can be king. It was that kind of situation. My opposition, not one of them did I even hear say, we are opposing because so and so, a king is born. He's not chosen.
Exactly.
They've been picking and choosing. It's fine. They have their choice, but a king is not he's not chosen. He's born. So I think that's where my opposition kind of fell off a little bit, to tell you the truth. But hey, we live in a democratic South Africa.
Yes.
Anyone can say what they want, but we can't all be kings. Just like the president mentioned this afternoon, that there's only one certificate, he's only signing one, and he's not going to sign another one, which I think that should put everybody at ease, to say decisions have been taken, this is what it is. And I do thank a lot the support from my people. They have supported me a lot, through social media, through radio. Understandably, I do understand the medium to a certain extent. And really, I would like to say a lot of it has been on my side, and I do thank my father's people for that. It's not about bidding for the winning horse. It's not about winning or losing here. It's about inheriting the throne through birth.
And Bayate, through this inheritance, I looked at you on stage today. And in fact, I've been following you for quite some time. Initially seeming a little nervous, getting into it. I saw someone who's confident on the throne, but also the weight of the responsibility that you now carry. And one must not forget that the manner in which you inherited the throne was quite difficult. You lost your parents within a space of a month, and that, just as a human, that is enough to take its toll, let alone what was taking place in the family. Your parents in spirit would obviously be there. What would you say to them about the future of the throne you've inherited, and in doing so, speaking to your subjects about the sustainability of the throne in a democracy as you've now received the certificate of recognition?
Just to answer that question also, kingship is, the way I perceive it, is a godly thing. It's also an ancestral thing, which, when you look at it, yes, it was sad. I lost my parents. And somebody will be like, oh, now you're the king, such and such. It's actually a very difficult and challenging position, which I don't know if my father was going to be able to cope. I know it's a year ago.
Yeah.
With in his speeches, the last final speeches, you do kind of like sense that he didn't think this was his time. So through that religious belief and that ancestral belief, I do believe that he couldn't, or he wouldn't have coped at this time. I don't know why ancestors or religion would think I'm going to cope at this time, but I don't know whether to say fortunately or unfortunately, but I can say 50-50 both. This had to be my time. Not that my time will be easy. It will come with a lot of challenges. And I need to step up to the plate and do what I have to do and be more committed to my people, to South Africa as a whole. I look forward to working with this government. It's going to be a learning curve. It will take time. Rome was not built in a day. We'll take it one step at a time. And looking at the future of the Zulus, I think we need to unite as a people first, because I do believe that the rest of South Africa and the rest of Africa is looking up to the unity of the Zulus, and it will start in my family. To see the royal family unite, and mind you, I don't have any problem or any hatred whatsoever with those that oppose me as king. That is their opinion. Just like I said, at the walking into doing the crawl at Wakangela, that you can hear them, but don't listen to them.
And I think that reverberates. And if you're talking about social media and the support you've received there, that is one thing and the greatest takeaway that people made from that speech. But also, Bayet, if I could just jump in there, one of the biggest takeaways was really that it's still home. You called upon those family members, that your chairs are still waiting for you. And in fact, it would be remiss of me not to reflect on the fact that one of your father's wives, who you would obviously call mothers, Queen Sibongile Dlamini, was there at the Moses Mabhida Stadium today. It's not a moment to be missed. Does this mean that that unity that you spoke of is finally there?
Yes, that's where it really would begin. That's where it would start. And, through God, the ancestors, we are looking and we are hoping and we are wishing that all this comes to pass and we move on. Because at the end of the day, there has to be just one king. Whether you like him or you don't like him, acceptance is one of the most difficult things to swallow in life. I had to swallow the fact that both my parents left, a month apart. They both passed away. I'm not now going to go crazy. I had to accept reality that this is what's happened. I need to accept it. Because had I not accepted it, this would have taken me to another totally different direction, which I don't think, it would take me to a space I don't think I want to be.
On a more positive note, Bayebe, it's been a beautiful day. the last year has been tumultuous, but there have been some good moments, like Ungene Sibayeni, Kwakangela, like today, going forward. Beyond the pomp and ceremony, beyond what we saw today, the real work for you now begins by it, and you've just alluded to that. The people who are watching this and are wanting to know what's going to happen when it comes to rural development, which I know is close to your heart, when it comes to dealing with the scourge of gender-based violence, when it comes to really being the custodian of the Amazulu Nation's, heritage and culture. What does that look like on a more positive note, led by a united royal family?
Yes, luckily for me, I've done a few courses whereby I've studied your typical population dynamics, your human settlement, looking at urban, looking at rural. I'm a little bit experienced in that, which, we want to keep rural. Just because it's rural does not mean it has to be poor. And just because it's metro does not mean they have to get a bigger budget. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But in most cases, that's the case. You can never compare a budget, for instance, Nqobile, and Durban. You look at the population. And you say, okay, here's the population, and we have a problem with migration. People coming from rural to urban, looking for a better life. And in some instances, when they get to the metros, most of the time that's never the case. There's never a better life. And a lot of the time, you start seeing people engaging in crime in the metros, coming from rural, because it's about survival at the same time. So if we are able to develop rural, that way we are able to keep our rural people in rural areas where they are at home, at their comfort zone. They have work at home, rural. That way, there's no reason or need to go to the city, because that's just adding more trouble on what's already there. So it's quite a challenge when it comes to that, and that's the only way is if we, especially KZN, we're a very fortunate province with great potential. Great leadership, and the leadership of KZN, I have no doubt, especially the leadership that is here now, that we can hold hands and really get down to the nitty-gritty of trying to develop rural so that job opportunities are created, people's livelihoods are at a better state. And really, that's how I look at how we can, deal with this whole migration from rural to urban. And because it's very rare that you'll get someone from urban going to rural. It's very rare. It's always the rural going to urban. And when they get to the urban areas, it's just more trouble, more stress, and then they resolve to crime.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help us at all. And I have great ideas how that can happen. And fortunately, a lot of it is at my disposal, more than the other leadership in the province. So the other leadership in the province would basically look up to me to spearhead that program moving forward. with them assisting me at the same time.
All right. Certainly a bright future ahead for the citizens of KwaZulu-Natal and South Africa as a whole. That's King Misizulu Nqobile Zwelithini in conversation with us after the official handing over of that certificate of recognition by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Not to say that he hasn't already been coronated. This has already happened from a traditional and ancestral perspective, but the 9th AmaZulu monarch very clear about the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders, but certainly and most importantly the unity of the AmaZulu royal family, which is clearly well underway, and we'll be watching closely by a day about those programs going forward as Newsroom Africa.